Hello and welcome to Grief and Brief with Henry Ford SandCastles. My name is Charlie and I am here with my fellow staff member Katie, and we are here to talk to you a little bit about journaling today, about some grief journaling, some of the benefits we find from it, just kind of an all over talk on grief and journaling. And we're happy to be here and talk to you today. Want to say hi, Katie?
Hi, everybody. I echo what Charlie said. Happy to be here. Excited to talk about journaling. It's one of my favorite self-care activities, and I hope you'll get some helpful advice from us today.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. And I actually learned something new about Katie today. I didn't know that was one of her favorite self-care activities, so got to give a shout out to that. Um, so yeah, we wanted to talk a little bit about journaling. I think that sometimes when journaling can come to mind, maybe it's a little bit like more straightforward, or it's this thing of like, okay, is that just like writing stuff down, or like what are the different ways you can journal and different understandings of journaling, and talking about the benefits of journaling, right? So to be able to put what you're feeling either down in words or even down in a different expression like drawing or doodling, or there's many different ways to be able to express your thoughts and feelings, but journaling is a way to do that, to process that, and also to practice self compassion in a time when you can be experiencing a lot of different emotions, maybe emotions that you haven't felt before or you haven't felt to that depth, or maybe you're feeling mixed emotions, many things at the same time. So in journaling, you can sometimes uh, find clarity if you're able to sit down and write out what you're thinking, what's going through your mind, and what you're feeling without judgment, and just accepting yourself and where you're at in your grief journey and your emotions. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I think for me personally, journaling has been a really great outlet. I find myself to be a bit of an overthinker and sometimes a worrier. And so journaling is a great way for me to kind of get out those scenarios that I think might happen and be able to process them in a way where I feel more confident, knowing that no matter what situation comes up, I have kind of thought it through on paper and will be able to handle it. And I think it's a really great way to look back and reflect on where you were previously if you choose to keep your journals. I know some people will burn them, which is also a great way to release all of those past experiences. But if you're someone that likes to keep them, being able to kind of look back on it and reflect on where you were a year ago in your grief versus where you're at now can be a really eye-opening experience, because when you're making those incremental small improvements day by day, you may not notice them as much, but when you're able to reflect back and see where you were, you can notice that those changes to a greater extent, which I think can be really helpful too.
yeah. I think that's a good point, Katie. I wouldn't have necessarily thought of that or thought to even look back and to look at that incremental change. Um, as a way of like journaling, one of the benefits I think Katie is touching on is widening your perspective on things over time, or maybe having a reframe for your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the same way you can talk to people about your experiences, and sometimes talking with others can just help you process it because it's externalizing all of those feelings and kind of giving them the space to be interpreted in different ways. That benefit can also come from just writing it down in a journal, and you can kind of start to interpret it differently in your own mind, which is, I'm sure, some sort of scientific phenomenon, but I don't quite know what it is. But I do know that it's really beneficial and helps me kind of broaden my perspective on things, or, understand things from a different level um, at times, which can be really helpful because I think sometimes when you're so wrapped up in the emotions and you're feeling that overwhelm and overflow of those emotions, that sometimes it can be difficult to process the experiences that you're having. So if you have an outlet for that emotion, it can create space for those day-to-day things that kind of come up too.
Yes, and I think you're speaking to some of that overwhelm or that overload that can be, felt in grief where maybe something is coming up and you've never experienced that before, or you're imagining a scenario where that's never happened before. So when things happen, it can be really hard to know what to do in the moment or what to feel in the moment because there's so many new things in you experience as a grieving person that can take you aback. And so having an outlet for that in journaling or in other ways that work for other folks can be that way of how am I connecting like to the parts of me that I don't maybe normally connect with, or it's not as like I'm not as readily aware of it. And deepening that self-awareness, again, kind of as a benefit of journaling as you go along.
For sure. I think what's really helpful as someone who's a bit of a perfectionist is knowing that there is no right or wrong way to journal too. It can be a bit intimidating when you see like how other people might be doing their journaling, but when you really embrace it as this like personalized outlet, and know that no matter how you go about the journaling process, you're still going to achieve those benefits. I think that that is kind of where that mind shift can really help. And so for me personally, I typically on a daily basis or every so often day, I will free flow journal. So basically just opening up my journal and just writing whatever happens to be on my mind at the time. Um, and that can be really helpful for me, especially when I'm at a moment of feeling really, really overwhelmed. Just being able to open up my journal and spill it all out onto the page is really helpful. I know for others, sometimes having journal prompts can be really helpful. And there are many, many websites that have journal prompts available of any sort of subject that you're looking for. In this case, we're talking a little bit more about grief specific. I know on the SandCastles website, we even have a page that has journal prompts that are really helpful. So if you're looking for some, that's a great place to look as well. I went through my own grief support group and we had a workbook. So I wrote down a few journal prompts that I thought were really helpful, and I'm happy to share those. So the first one was the hardest thing for me to talk about in my grief is dot, dot, dot. I think that's a really great one because it's allowing you time to reflect on what maybe you're holding back from saying to others, and others in your life won't know what you're going through or what you need from them until you tell them. And so being able to get it out on paper so that you know what you need, because you might not even know what you need, but taking that time to reflect on that can be really beneficial for yourself and then for communicating with others in your life. Kind of along those same lines, another prompt is how are you and your family members experiencing grief differently? We talk about this in our SandCastles groups with the kids, allowing them space to recognize the others in their life and how they're processing their grief. Some people are more outward with their grief, and some people kind of are more inward with it. So just recognizing that and then being able to communicate with those in your life how you yourself are grieving and what that looks like, and then respecting where they're coming from too. Another prompt is where are some favorite places you and your person like to go? And if you've been able to return, describe that experience. So reflecting on maybe a place, and it's okay if you haven't been able to go back there, and maybe write about why you haven't been able to go back there. And maybe if you plan to go there in the future, what you hope for that to look like is another option. And then the last prompt I have written down are characteristics of your person that you want to remember. And are any of those characteristics ones that you yourself want to kind of utilize and honor their legacy with? Um, I know for me personally, my dad loved to hug. He was always like, first thing he did when he saw you was hug you. And so that was something that I recognized that I really, really appreciated about him. And I'd like to offer that to people in my life too. So I think any of those prompts are really, really helpful if you're not sure where to start when you're journaling. There's no shame in looking up a prompt and then just going off of that as well.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Katie, just some of the questions that you felt like were helpful and kind of different ways to explore and to reflect on your grief. I think also you touched on, as part of the journaling experience, one of the benefits that you've gotten out of this process and gotten out of like answering some of those questions you talked about was that you're developing self-acceptance as you're doing it. I think many of us were kind of raised or in a certain way to be perfectionistic or not want to do anything bad or wrong or what have you. And so I think in grief, sometimes that can limit us because it can be really difficult to accept yourself and your emotions as exactly how they are right now, right? And that's part of that self acceptance or that self compassion. And I think um, we know that from a society perspective, it can be difficult. It's taboo to talk about grief or to talk about death or to talk about some of those emotions that come along with it. So even as we have like feelings of like sadness or like regret, guilt, anger, fear, even by having these feelings, sometimes we can feel like, oh, is this a sign of failure? Is this a sign of like that I'm not doing well? And so that can kind of take away from our ability to just be able to put that down and to say, to have these thoughts and these feelings is a natural and a normal part of the human experience. And we just want to plant those seeds and to encourage those things as you are on your grief journey, as you are journaling or not, remembering to hold that and to know that having feelings is integral to being alive and to experiencing grief. And it's so important to find outlets or to find ways to cope with that. Um, and I also just wanted to say here before we wrap it up is to know there's probably some challenges that you are, I'm sure you're already experiencing some challenges on your grief journey, but there might be challenges in just journaling, right? You might have very uncomfortable feelings come up, like some of the feelings I mentioned earlier, anxieties or shame related to that person's death, things that aren't always talked about with others, or you're uncertain of how to talk about, or you might not even necessarily know that it's there. It's a really difficult thing. So just know that these challenges are expected and that these are normal parts of grieving and putting out your thoughts and your feelings onto paper, or not feeling like you're good enough, or this isn't good enough, or what am I doing? And to be able to sit with that and to know that that's okay, but you can also continue on and not have to be perfect in this space. You may be distracted. We live in a modern world, or maybe this is something that you pick up journaling, you put it down, maybe you lose momentum for a while, or there's other times where it's more important. And all of those things are okay. Katie and I just want you to know that this is a resource for you to be able to access whenever you would like. So, yeah.
So let's say you're ready to journal. You're like, this sounds like a great way for me to express my feelings. Where do we start? So there's a few different options. And I'm sure we don't even know all of the options that are available. But one of the simple options is you can just go grab a notebook, um, from the dollar store and a pen or a pencil or a crayon, whatever writing utensil you have around. You can even just grab scrap paper. So many options. But I personally love a cute journal. So I've found TJ Maxx, um, Marshalls, Home Goods, they typically have some fun little journals in their stationery section. Obviously, you can always look online as well to buy a cute journal that really calls to you. And then your favorite writing utensil. I don't know about you all, but I have a favorite pen and it writes the best. But yeah, just personalize the experience as much as you would like to, or simplify it as much as you would like to. If maybe you don't really want to write, or you're, just not wanting to utilize your penmanship, you can journal in your phone. Even being able to type in your phone, or maybe in a Word doc on your computer. Um, as long as you're getting those emotions and feelings out, that is the main purpose. So, whatever is going to work for you and your lifestyle, please feel free to do that. Um, I also wanted to talk about some really great resources available online with more creative workbooks that you can use. So, they have those journaling prompts in there. They even have like drawing prompts, things like that. So, one that I have found really helpful is Drawing on Grief, Exploring Loss Through Creativity, and that is by Kate Sutton. I found it on Amazon, but it has some really great drawing prompts in it. So there's one that's draw a dream you had about your person, or draw a safe and comforting place. And then there's also some writing prompts as well. One of them was 3 questions you wish you could ask your person. So it's a really beautiful book. It fits right in my purse, which I love too, so I can take it on the go. But that's just a really great option if you want some drawing prompts as well as the writing prompts. Another one that I've seen is the Pretty Painful Grief book, and it's a journal to help you face your grief. And that one has some really great prompts as well. Both of those are a little bit more geared towards adults, but there are some really great children's activity books for grief as well. There's one called My Grief Comfort Book by Bree Overton. And then for teens, one that we've used in our program that's really great is Wreck This Journal. And it's got some amazing prompts for expressing your emotions, and then some fun ones mixed in there as well. So anything like that can be really beneficial too if you're not quite up to the free flow journaling or even the journal prompts. You want something that can help you express your creativity a little bit more. Those are really great options.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. I loved all the options. I love the options for the adults, breaking it down for kids of different ages, and having some variety about, written free flow versus prompts that are more directed versus ones that are actually like drawn or doodled. So just to kind of give you a range of how journaling can look and how that can be expressed. So yeah, well, I just had a very lovely time getting to talk with Katie and to kind of explore this topic more of journaling and how it looks in grief. And some of the things that, we wanted to share with you that has been helpful to us. Any last words before we sign off?
Not that I can think of, just give it a try. It would be my suggestion. Give it a try in whatever way feels most comfortable to you, and know that there is no right or wrong way when it comes to journaling. I think that is the biggest thing. And no one's going to read it, no one's going to see it. It is for you and your heart and your soul to express what you need to, um, and know that it's okay. No matter what you're feeling, it's okay to feel that way. And I think journaling is a great way to remind ourselves of that.
Thank you, Katie, for those soulful words. And as Katie said, give it a try. And our sign off today is keep on journaling. We hope that you take care here. Again, I'm Charlie from Henry Ford SandCastles, and I am here with Katie, and we hope you have a great day. Thank you so much.
Bye.